Hey, it's Mark Marin from WTF here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget, so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews all on the app. Download today.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I think they just wanted to see some titties, Geordie.
Eavesdroppin.
Oh, Michelle. Hello there.
Hello, hello. And if you are wondering, it is me. It's just me with a summer cold.
Oh, bless your little heart.
I know.
Are you all right? Do you need some chicken soup or some fake chicken soup? Some chicken of the woods soup?
It doesn't matter because I'm here and I'm here for eavesdropping.
She's here. She's real. She shows up. She's showing out. She's Michelle from the podcast Eavesdroppin. And welcome to the Eavesdroppers, because I'm Geordie.
Yes, and I don't need to say again who I am, but I will say who you are. You're eavesdropping on us, which makes you an eavesdropper, and we do love you. And we are especially grateful to all those people who are signing up to the Patreon account.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
We've got some newbies on the Patreon account. Welcome. Thank you. You'll be getting your little extra bits and bobs. Have we told you that this month features our friend of the podcast, Serena Bobowski? I think we have. If you'd like to hear her, go over and check it out.
Yes.
Also, Michelle, they've been voting for us in the British Podcast Awards. They've been voting in their droves. Thank you, Tom C. Thank you, Tiff. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Safka and the gang. Thank you to Shari. Thank you to Charlene, who's voted many times. Thank you, guys. And Yannicka, Steve, everybody, all of the usual suspects and more.
Neil the scientist, Jen the hen.
Go, Jen.
In their droves, they are voting. We thank you. We love you. And actually, if you want to help even further, go rate us on iTunes.
Oh, yes, please do rate. Don't complain about the ads, though. That's not our fault.
No, but go rate us on the Apple Podcasts and the Spotifys and all that.
That would be wonderful. Should we just tell you how to vote in case you haven't managed it yet?
Oh, yes.
What you do is you go over to British Podcast Awards, www.britishpodcastawards.com/whatever.com, blah, blah, blah. And you go into the listener's choice area and you type in Eavesdroppin, EAVESDROPPIN, comma. Apostrophe. And then you write in your email address. But then in order for the vote to count, you've got to go over to your emails and click the link to register your vote.
Exactly. Otherwise, they think you're a bot. They think you're AI.
But thank you, because it's a lot to ask. It's a lot of trouble to go to just for us.
Yes.
So we appreciate it.
We do, but we know that you'll do it because we give you the goods and we don't ask for much back.
The goods and the chattels. And what have we got this week? Well, let me tell you a few little things.
Ooh.
First of all, I've had some feedback about Terra. Oh. That upset a few people. Quite the sensory overload was one comment.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. I've got a Dear Rochelle update because I'm still listening. And Michelle, I'm a bit concerned that I'm going to be sitting there for fucking 39 episodes like you recently did with the Brenda or whatever it was called. Bronwyn. Yeah, so Ashley Hansen of the Dear Rochelle podcast is really stringing this out now. She's talking to Kevin Carell's ex-wife and now she's talking to his daughter, who actually gives a pretty damning indictment of her father while acknowledging her own struggles and fallibility as a parent. It's quite touching. But I am starting to worry that I'm going to be in this for a very long haul.
I did get through all 39 of those Bronwyn episodes. I have to say, I'm strung out. I'm
stressed?
Well, stressed by the fact that there's no conclusions, but also it was just too bloody much. I want my podcasts weekly. Look, to be fair, it probably was weekly. I just missed the boat and went back. I like just a little chunk. I think 39 to binge it all at once is a bit much.
Well, Michelle, do you know what? If you're a new eavesdropper, there's about 434 episodes that we've got in our back catalogue that you can chow your way through if you would so wish.
Did you just make up that number or do you know that?
No, we had an email from somebody who's trying to sell us optimization packages and they know exactly how many listeners we've got. It's a lot, by the way, and exactly how many episodes we've done.
I thought it was more in the 200s, but you could very well
It's 434.
Right. Yes, well done to us.
Hooray!
Telerex for sure. Telerex, one more. I'm watching telly. You're watching telly. We're watching telly on the telly. It's the television.
Well, I've got some TV recommendations, actually, Michelle. I've been watching some television. So has Safka. She's recommended a documentary called My Mom Jane about, I'm assuming, Jane Mansfield.
Could be. I'll have to look that up and pop that. Well, when I say I'll pop that on the Patreon, when I do these links, these telerecs, I always put a link to the trailer. So I do the hard work for you.
You really do, don't you? Very hardworking lady.
For all you lovely patrons, go over, have a look, because there's a lot of content that I'm not spamming your inbox with. But once you go to the page, you'll see there's all sorts of goodies, bits and pieces.
Wonderful. Back to Telerex. I'm watching Murderbot on Apple with gorgeous, sweet Alexander Skarsgård. It's a light sci-fi reimagining of what if security units made from metal, like robots made with AI and cloned organic parts, became sentient. Would they murder everyone? Or would they just like a quiet life catching up on their favourite space opera?
Oh, okay. So it's a comedy?
Kind of. But there is a bit of, a horror, suspense and terror and murders. Because it's called Murderbot.
Murderbot. It sounds quite good. Okay, I'll definitely be popping that on the Telerex.
Also, for my sins, watching Squid Game 3 because the kids are raving for it. They're foaming at the mouth for it.
Eavesdropper Steph, she has also recommended Squid Game 3.
I wouldn't recommend it, Steph. It's quite a rough ride. And I keep looking to my youngest and saying, do you think you might have nightmares tonight?
Is it that bad?
It's bad.
Oh my God, because I found Squid Game 1 quite disturbing.
Yes, it's all disturbing.
And then I had to really sort of build myself up to Squid Game 2 and it fell off the list because I was building up to the point where I just forgot. So I've got season 2 and 3 to watch now. It's quite exciting.
That's a lot of murders.
Yeah, but I watched 39. I listened to 39 fucking episodes of Bronwyn, so I got patience for these things. But I have been watching, oh God, I always have to watch the Swedish shows. It's a murder one. I think it's called One Summer. And yeah, it's okay. Is it a wreck? Kind of.
Oh.
It's a good thing to watch. And I did start watching Alone Australia season 3, but I kind of fell off because Eavesdropper Steph basically didn't tell me who won, but she gave the gender.
Oh, no. Yannicka from Amsterdam has recommended Sirens on Netflix, which is a cross between Big Little Lies and Chaos. Sign me up, I say. That sounds incredible.
Well, I didn't watch either of those two shows. So
I watch all of them. I loved Chaos. I recommended Chaos.
You did, and it had very good reviews, actually.
Yeah, it was amazing. I don't know why they didn't continue with that. And she also recommends a TV competition show called Blown Away about...
What?
Glass blowing.
Oh my God. They can make anything interesting, can't they?
Really?
I did manage to watch season 3 of Someone Somewhere. Is that what it's bloody called? It's one of those generic names.
I don't know.
It's so bloody good. I really loved it. And it had my favourite big cuddly Icelandic guy in it.
Oh, that guy.
Torbjorn or whatever his name is.
He's in everything, whatever his name is, but he's in everything.
Well, he plays the love interest, and I just loved him. I thought he was wonderful. So I will
love interest. He's been the bad guy in so many things because he was in Severance.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my!
And I recommended that too. Apple's rocking it.
Well, I started watching Severance and then dropped off that as well.
No, you can't drop off Severance. It's insane.
Okay. I'll have to maybe jump back on now I know he's in it because, he's a little fave. He's a big fave. I like a little big Icelandic.
What are you saying?
I wanted to say I love a little Icelandic guy, but he's a big boy.
He's giant.
But he is in this someone somewhere or whatever it's bloody called. Mm-hmm. I really highly recommend watching all 3 seasons. Just binge them.
Okay. Thank you for the recommendations.
Yes.
So this week, Michelle, we're back in conspiracy land. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I have this story which was sent to me quite a while ago from our favourite modern mystic, Tamira.
Lovely.
And it is a story I call Conspired to Death. So it's a bit of a spoiler. But let me tell you a little bit about this guy, Max Spiers. He was a conspiracy theorist from Canterbury in England, and he was said to have information on UFOs and aliens gained through higher up people in the world of politics, right? This guy was a regular on the Truth Seeker circuit. He attended and spoke at events like Poland's Earth Project conference and built up an online presence through YouTube interviews and podcasts, which is basic fodder for your average run-of-the-mill conspiracy theorist person, whether you're listening to and soaking it up and believing it and spreading the word amongst your peers, or if you're actually a person of interest in the conspiracy world. Max Spiers was such a person of interest. He was very handsome. He had a high energy, dramatic style of presentation as well, often bringing the worlds of UFOs, mind control like MK Ultra, the occult and its practices, including psychic attack, all of which we have spoken about before, let me say.
Yes.
This is basically a rundown of Eavesdroppin episode list here. Nazis. He loves a Nazi.
Have we ever done anything on the Nazis?
No.
We kind of given that a wide berth.
We've given a few things wide berth. Scientology, Nazis. There's a few things we won't touch.
Is that by choice or just because we haven't got there yet? Fear. And you just don't want to say Adolf too many times.
Not really.
But can I just go back quickly?
Yes.
You say he's handsome.
Yeah.
How handsome?
He's of average to above average handsomeness, I'd say. Not your kind of handsome, because you do like an odd sort of, I don't know.
Oh, I don't.
You've got some unusual tastes, is all I'm going to say. This guy's
Ricky Gervais?
This guy is cookie cutter handsome.
Like, who can you say he resembles?
Compare him to? Okay, like an actor. I would say someone like maybe one of the Baldwins when they were younger but more handsome. So maybe somebody like the guy that's with the girl with the big boobs at the moment. She's everywhere. Sydney Sweeney. She's in a film at the moment with a guy called Glenn. And I don't know much more apart from that. But he looks a bit like that guy Glenn, who's a famous actor called Glenn, of all things.
I will find
Glenn the actor.
Find him. Glenn the actor. It's not a name that's common.
I never thought Brad would be either, because it's such a common Australian kind of 70s boy name, isn't it? Brad, Glenn, Ian.
Ian, yes.
Ian. Little baby Ian.
That was my creepy PE teacher's name.
Can I go back to my story?
Yes, you can.
I'm forgetting what I was saying, and I've got a lot to tell.
Oh, go.
So I was just saying how Max Spiers, not only is he handsome, he's got high energy production style, and he talks about mind control, UFOs, the occult, Nazis, global elites, all together in one great big single but very complicated theory. That's why I needed to get that sentence out.
Wow.
Because it's that complicated.
So he's not just a pretty face.
Not just a pretty face, he's also got a very busy mind.
Yes.
As a child, Max claimed to have had out-of-body experiences and believed he was bestowed with supernatural powers from birth.
Okay, so this guy is either amazing or a complete bullshit artist.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm curious.
Right. Well, these beliefs set Max on a path to some pretty out there beliefs, including the idea that he had been genetically altered as a child.
I'm sorry.
Stop it.
This guy is just getting ridiculous.
Listen, I'm going to say it to you. He felt that he had been genetically altered as a child to become a super soldier as part of a secret military program. He had, like I said, he's got a lot of out there ideas, Michelle.
Is he
so wacky? I started to feel sad.
Well, I'm starting to feel unsafe because if he knows that I'm mocking him, is he going to come for me? Don't come for me.
As I said earlier, spoiler, no, he's not.
Oh.
Don't say another word.
Sure.
So I'm not sure what all this exactly means, like being a super soldier, right? But perhaps it's got something to do with the book The Men Who Stare at Goats by John Ronson, which was published in 2004.
This is what I was going to say. He's channeling John Ronson.
All of it.
John Ronson? Is that him?
Yeah, John Ronson.
I get him mixed up with the DJ.
Mark Ronson.
And also, I'm getting shades of the guy who thinks that he's Camilla and Charles's son.
Go back to another episode.
Genetically altered.
Good story, Michelle. If only we could remember what episode that was for listeners to go back and listen to. Probably in series 2 or 3, I'd say. It was bloody excellent.
Yes, go back, have a listen.
They're up there. So, The Men Who Stare at Goats, published in 2004. In case you don't know, it's about how the US military tried many times and failed to train soldiers in the use of parascientific and pseudoscientific combat techniques during the Cold War using New Age methods and psychic phenomena such as remote viewing, astral projection, and death touch, and mind reading against various Soviet targets. The title refers to their attempts to kill goats by staring at them and making their hearts just stop. There's a film which is quite comedic. But this is a thing, Michelle. There is actually, like all conspiracies, there's a nub of truth about this, which I will talk about later.
A nub.
A nubule.
Nub.
A nodule. He also loves the popular conspiracy theory, which we have talked about previously, involving reptilian shapeshifters, aka lizard people, e.g. Queen Elizabeth II and her ilk, R.I.P.
Oh my God.
They don't live forever.
I don't know whether I'm...
Are you on board with lizard people?
No, I'm just wondering about this guy. I don't know, because he said he's handsome as well. I don't know if I'm in love or just...
In awe.
In awe or just thinking he's ridiculous.
Well, you need to hear more. There is so much more, Michelle. He suggested that Nazis and Zionists have been secretly aligned for tens of thousands of years in a conflict he linked to a Fourth Reich. Obviously, we know that the Second World War with the Nazis and Hitler, that was the Third Reich. This is the Fourth Reich that he's talking about. And there's a bunch of people in the conspiracy sphere who do believe in this stuff, Michelle. And right now it's probably popping off like mad, especially with everything that's going on in the world today. He strongly believed that humans were under control, this is a good one, by alien forces, with governments and the elite working alongside the aliens to manipulate society. Max also spoke of Dulce Base, I think I'm saying that right, it's Mexican, a secret underground facility in New Mexico. He even claimed to have witnessed child breeder vats and experiments involving human pure energy. That's giving me QAnon. That's giving me fucking, what is it? The QAnon conspiracy theories about sucking out the adrenal glands of children.
Yeah.
Crazy.
They all blur into one.
Well, he's blurring it all into one. He's putting it all in one great big hat. One big magic hat.
When you believe all this stuff, it must become exhausting to keep track of it. But also,
I believe that.
You can't have a job.
His job is talking at these conferences.
Oh my God.
He'll get paid.
Not a bad job.
For those who don't know, Dulce Base is the stuff of UFO legend. Somehow we have not talked about this before, as far as I know.
Well, pin that.
It's a long-standing conspiracy theory that claims there's a secret underground facility beneath Archuleta Mesa, which is on the New Mexico-Colorado border near the small town of Dulce. And according to believers, this base is jointly run by humans and aliens.
Oh my God, how have we not known about this?
I don't know. Here's all the info. The theory came about in the late 70s when an Albuquerque businessman named Paul Benowitz became convinced he was picking up strange electronic signals supposedly from alien spacecraft and hidden installations near Albuquerque. And by the early 80s, he was convinced he'd uncovered a secret alien human base near Dulce, populated by grey aliens and military personnel. So by 83, Benowitz's claims had made it to the public domain, and the story quickly spread through the UFO community. By 1987, prominent ufologist John Lear claimed to have independent confirmation that the base was real, a claim that helped fuel the legend. And this myth grew further thanks to a man called Jason Bishop III, who later admitted he made up several of the stories connected to the base, but that didn't stop it from going viral.
But is the base real or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't, after all that, I just don't know. There was a book published in 1986 called Extraterrestrials Among Us, which featured the Dulce base. So I think it's real in the minds of ufologists or UFO conspiracy theorists. And then there was a tabloid called the Weekly World News, which ran with the story in 88, claiming that diabolical invaders from another solar system had built a hidden base in New Mexico where they were abducting humans for bizarre genetic experiments. The article even quoted well-known UFO researcher Leonard Stringfield, who was horrified when he read it and said it's a total distortion of facts.
Right.
So what is the truth? We don't know. Shaky origins, but the Dulce Bay story remains one of the most persistent tales in UFO folklore.
And your guy's all over it.
Back to Max. He's on top of that. He's riding that pony all the way into the sunset. Even his own mother said that he was exposing people who are dangerous in the world of government and the entertainment world. She said, these people seem to be involved in some very, very dark and dangerous ideas of the world. And I was afraid that as he was gaining popularity and fame, that perhaps somebody would want him out of the way, i.e. not alive any longer, which is what it usually means, love. She said in the interview posted on YouTube, which I did not see.
Good.
Didn't watch that one, but I did watch some others. And believe it or not, Michelle, even amongst the conspiracy theorists, Max's credibility was often called into question.
Oh.
They just weren't sure whether to take him seriously or not. Mm-hmm. There was this Polish journalist called Adam Borowski of Radio Paranormalian, who thought Max was nothing more than a plagiarist, taking the work of others and repurposing it as his own. And some say that Max never demonstrated any real evidence to back up his quite outlandish claims.
Well, I mean, to be fair, has anyone
got proof of these aliens?
Yeah, for these outlandish claims.
Nah.
In any way.
Not really.
So, I mean, I don't want to
poo-poo.
kind of come down too hard on Max, especially as he's quite good looking. But
cut a guy some slack.
Give the guy a break.
But not surprisingly, Michelle, you also kind of alluded to this earlier. Max struggled with his mental health. He suffered from debilitating anxiety that at times left him unable to manage daily life or just function, really.
Did he live with his mum?
The whole family moved to the US for quite some time. And during that time, he injured his pelvis and was prescribed strong opiates for the pain. And that then led to an addiction of opioid painkillers, unfortunately. And once the prescriptions ran out, he turned to heroin. So poor Max was a heroin addict. But apparently he kicked it. And then by the time he arrived in Poland in 2016, he was 39 years of age. And some people believed that Max had relapsed into his drug taking after they witnessed a troubling video taken shortly before his death. Yes, he dies. That shows him disoriented and confused. I'm getting to the death. All right. I'm building up.
Yes.
His mother later said that the behavior in that video was exactly how he was when he was on heroin. And while he was in Poland in July 2016, which is 10 years ago, where are we now? We're 26 or 25? I don't know.
25.
Thank you. Bloody hell.
25. God, the years just fly by.
Thanks for telling me. Sometimes I forget where I am. Max was staying with a Polish publisher, Monica Duval, who he befriended after speaking at the Warsaw Conference. So she's in the conspiracy sphere. At the time, it was known that Max had been medicating himself since June with the Turkish equivalent of Xanax, which you can get nice and cheap if you just pop across the borders and go get some Xanax from the pharmacy.
Yeah, but fuck knows what's in it, what it's cut with.
Yeah, but around that time, his mum received a troubling text from Max that said, "Your boy's in trouble. If anything happens to me, investigate."
Oh my God. As a parent, you don't want to get a text like that. You don't want to get that from anyone.
No, but if you know your kid, you know that he's always like watching his back because he's a conspiracy theorist. That's the aim of the game. That's the job.
But also, you know, he's a heroin addict.
Poor woman.
What do you do with a text like that?
I don't know. I don't know what she did. But on the 16th of July, 2016, Max died suddenly at Monica Duval's home. He had fallen asleep on her sofa after taking about 10 of those Turkish Xanax.
Oh, God.
She attempted to resuscitate him before he was pronounced dead at the scene. And Max's body was flown back to the UK 6 days after his death. Strangely, Michelle, his family were advised not to view his remains because his face had deteriorated so badly.
What?
He was reportedly unrecognizable.
What?
This is where it starts to go dark.
After 6 days.
That's some high-pitched shock and horror coming from you.
But it is. What the hell was in that dodgy Turkish Xanax? Face-eating.
Was it the Xanax
stuff.
or was it something more dark and conspiratorial? Polish authorities launched an investigation on the 30th of August 2016 where they were looking at the possibility of involuntary manslaughter. I believe there was a few people in the room when he died. Later that year, in December, a separate inquest was opened in the UK to establish how he died, and a British coroner said that they were still waiting on official documentation from Poland, which delayed proceedings until February the following year, 2017.
Right.
So this is taking a really long time. Why the delay? Finally, in January 2019, 2 years after Max's death, his cause of death was formally announced: a lethal combination of drugs and pneumonia. In fact, poor Max had twice the therapeutic dose of Xanax, a potentially fatal dose of oxycodone, plus vaping level pneumonia. What is that?
What the fuck is that?
Vaping level pneumonia. Should we be worried about that? Kids, put down that vape.
I mean, look, you could put a little, not disease, but like an infection, a bacteria or something, into a vape.
You can get bronchitis from smoking too much, I believe. So pneumonia from a vape does not seem too far-fetched. You're fucking with your lungs.
Yes, you
It's
are.
a lung condition.
Stop vaping, kids.
Don't do it. Of course, suspicion surrounds the death of Max Spiers, which is not unusual considering the circles he moved in and the thought processes they also follow. However, there were some odd facts about the case, including the mishandled investigation. Polish authorities delayed the autopsy. They kept the body at the scene overnight, and the initial police investigations were deemed wholly incompetent. Apparently, there was also destroyed evidence. His phone, SIM card was initially missing. His laptop was returned to his mother, having been completely wiped.
Oh.
Disturbingly, witnesses to Max's death said they saw him vomit up to 2 liters of black gastric fluid before dying. And of course...
Well, and they just left him on the sofa while he's there vomiting.
Well, no, they didn't leave him. They called the cops and they tried to resuscitate. But of course, the UFO and conspiracy communities are lapping this info up, and many suspect foul play linked to his investigations. But of course, there's no hard evidence to support this, Michelle.
And what's the motive?
Well, like his mother said, dark people. He's investigating them, and she's worried that they're going to come after him.
Yeah.
Now, former UK UFO head Nick Pope called it tragic, but saw no reason to suspect the government. And at the UK inquest, his mum, Vanessa, said, "I really think, standing back from it now, that he was just getting himself in more and more of a state." She added that Max was very funny and so full of life and humorous. He was not one of those dead hell-bent on conspiracy, and pointing out that the government was going to fail or fall. Stereotypically, that's how conspiracy theorists are presented. I'm not sure, Vanessa. Have you listened to his YouTubes? It doesn't really stop the theories flying in thick and fast. In one video about the super soldier survivor community, a man claimed to have been contacted by Max's spirit already.
Oh, and what did he say? How's Max doing on the other side?
I don't know. But a lot of the other conspiracy theorists believe that he was killed because he knew too much.
Oh, I don't know.
There's a lot to it. I mean,
yes.
He's got an ex-girlfriend that pipes up as well. I mean, it was hard to get all the info, but then suddenly it all came flooding in.
Yes.
The ex-girlfriend, in a New York Post article, Sarah Adams, said he was going to expose black magic. He was going to expose some of the stuff he was working on involving political leaders and celebrities. And she said that he did fear for his life. And she said, "We were used to getting death threats or stuff like that from people, but I think this time it seemed rather real. He'd been sent threats saying that him and me were going to die."
This is all well and good, but it's not like he was assassinated. It wasn't like he
took 12 Xanax.
That's what I mean. He did it to himself. Unless somebody deliberately put some dodgy shit in that Xanax and it was a very well orchestrated thing, the guy just overdosed.
I do think he had a very busy mind as well. You know about the anxiety. This poor chap was overcome with anxiety, which may have led him in the direction of all of this conspiracy stuff in the first place. I did watch excerpts from Max's final recorded interview where his basis for the Nazis and the Zionists being linked is explained by just moving the letters around and changing a vowel to the word Zion becomes the word Nazi. It's almost like doing Wordle. I don't know. if that's a basis. And then in another interview, he was introduced as a super soldier. He talks about something called Project Oak Tree, which is not a weekly well-being group to get out in nature more, but something altogether weirder involving the search for mothers to house children in their womb who were then born in the 70s. I don't know.
Oh, God.
If you're into theories, conspiracies, you'll know.
Okay.
Ibis. Not the budget hotel chain or the Australian bin chickens. I don't know what it is, but it's something weird. Then there's his theory on military laboratory experiment, or MILAB. Aliens haven't abducted you, Michelle. You actually have been taken by the military, who then implant memories, and you've been taken to an underground military base, not up into a UFO.
Right.
So all of those abductees have actually been abducted by the military and not UFOs. Mars is a big thing in the conspiracy landscape of Max. Okay. He says that apparently there's a portal in Arizona where you can jump from Earth to Mars. He doesn't say he went there, but he does remember going to Mars before describing what sounds like essentially a dream. And then he says in 2008, the troublesome actor, Jared Leto, I don't know if you've heard about him, he's all up in the naughty corner right now. He then named his band 30 Seconds to Mars, which occurred after Max remembers the countdown for getting to Mars. 1 minute to Mars, 50 seconds to Mars, 30 seconds to Mars, etc. Go figure. So then Jared Leto names his band, and he's like, he must know as well about this.
Well, tell me more about Jared. I have seen something. What's he done?
I think he's been a bit
naughty with the ladies.
Been naughty with the ladies, yeah.
Okay.
But I want to tell you about Elohim. People like us, except they have the DNA and the ability to survive for like a millennia. Basically, they are high vibrational frequency beings, and this is straight out of the Matrix films. In the Matrix, the architect who designed the Matrix describes himself as part of the Elohim, or Elohim, I don't know how you pronounce it, suggesting that he is a system or program responsible for creating and managing the simulation. So he also thinks that we're in the Matrix.
Okay.
And they were being enslaved by aliens.
This guy, honestly, it must have been such hard work to be him.
I mean, I've got more if you want to know about it. He thinks that Jews are traditionally from a reptilian line. The Aryans hail from Atlantis. They're not reptilian. And the reptiles want the Aryan DNA so they can look better and mix better amongst humans. The elite and high-level Masons know this, and they're upset at Max for revealing these facts. Because we're listening, Max.
Yes.
Honestly. Max is what's called a stone mite. He describes himself as a stone mite because he comes from inner earth. He's an inner earth angelic being. He described inner earth as being with lots of bubbles and force fields around little worlds, including reptiles. These people believe that there's other worlds inside earth.
Okay.
Michelle?
So
they can't believe it's flat, though. Must be round.
Was he ever given any kind of mental health diagnosis?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so he flew under that radar.
He was anxious. He suffered from debilitating anxiety. That was a fact. Whether or not he was being treated for it, I don't have those records. His other thing he talks about is duality. Everything needs to disagree or be at war to maintain our existence. Now, I will say I'm a little bit kind of on board with that one, Max. So maybe there's a little chink where I might suddenly go down that rabbit hole and suddenly believe in the fourth dimension where there's a whole army and police force monitoring the 4D world. But in 5D, there's a whole lawless realm of archangels hanging out there, and they can't come to Earth very often because it's difficult for them to be contained in their physical bodies.
Right.
These are things he talks about. Everyone who has ever lived, Michelle, has been hanging about waiting in the other dimensions for the final battle, so it's time to choose a side.
This guy, I'm exhausted listening to this guy. It's a lot.
Oh, yeah. The moon is actually a ship. It's not a star. It's like the Death Star in Star Wars. He's been told he's been there, but he doesn't remember. Basically, after a while, I started to feel like I was watching a man having a psychotic episode.
Yeah, it does sound like this.
It was really frightening, though, for me, how earnest the Polish interviewer was. Like, he knew a lot of these theories and he was kind of feeding them to Max, and Max was correcting him on various details. Also, what was problematic for me was the comment section. People want to believe this. It's almost mind-bending, fantastical stuff.
Yeah.
But like I said, take away the fantasy, and I did agree with a couple of the things, like the duality. I feel like we're being divided as a race, and being kept at war does sometimes feel necessary. And like, you know, we've often said there's always a kernel or a nub or a nodule of truth in a lot of these theories. For example, the Men Who Stare at Goats, PSYOP stuff, there was actually a program called First Earth Battalion. I mean, how spooky does that sound?
Where's the second Earth?
I don't know. We are the first Earth. But in 1968, there was a US Army officer called Michael Aquino who specialized in psychological warfare, then became a lieutenant colonel in military intelligence. I'm not going to go into it because I'm going to wrap this up now, but I just want to say this guy was high up in this stuff, and then he went on to become an ordained satanic priest.
Oh my God.
It's true.
I think we've talked about him on the
Have
pod
we?
before. Yes, it's ringing alarm bells.
On the Anton LaVey episode, because he became disillusioned with LaVey and started his own occult organization called the Temple of Set, serving as their leader from 1975 to 1996. So sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, Michelle.
Wow. Well, I mean, my mind is boggled. It's scrambled. Well, first of all, I don't think he was murdered. Do you know what? It doesn't matter. People want to find a conspiracy theory in something.
Yeah.
They'll find it. They'll make it up. Really, really interesting. And I'll pop all those links for your story on the Patreon because I'm investigating.
It sounds a bit sick, but it is worth looking at some of Max's videos and listening to what he's got to say because it does start to get very confusing, and it's no wonder that his mind was so jumbled and he was so frightened.
Yeah. Honestly, just get out in the sunshine, Max. Well, he can't now.
Stop it.
Thank you for your story.
My pleasure.
Conspiracy. I think it's a conspiracy.
Hey, it's Mark Maron from WTF here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget, so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows home so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews all on the app. Download today.
Well, Geordie, I thought we were doing mysteries. So I've got a bit of a mystery.
All mysterious mysteries are all welcome here.
Well, this one is about a guy in a suit who jumped out of a plane. And there are no real answers about who he is or what happened to this guy. So basically, I'm looking at the legend of the man the world came to know as D.B. Cooper. And I want to thank Yannicka because I had heard about this case before. I have listened to podcasts a few years ago on it.
Yes, same.
I'm going to start off, Geordie, with the fact that this whole D.B. Cooper moniker, it's a misnomer. He was called Dan Cooper on the flight ticket.
Oh.
But for anyone who doesn't know this case, this man who hijacked a Northwest Orient flight in 1971, he bought his one-way ticket under the name Dan Cooper. But due to a miscommunication between the media and the FBI, the name DB was given, and somehow it stuck because a journalist mistakenly reported it was DB. It was never corrected. So Dan Cooper has become DB Cooper, and this era has become the legend. I'm not going to call him Dan in this story, and I'm not going to call him DB because it's wrong. So I'm just going to call him Cooper.
Okay.
Coops. Cooper. All right? Coops. But let's get to the juice of this. So it was the 24th of November, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, apparently, at Portland International Airport. A man who seemed to be in his mid-40s approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter. He was neatly dressed. Like I said, he was wearing a dark suit. He had a white shirt on and a black tie with a tie clip. He was also carrying a black attache case. So, he just looked like a businessman.
Or a man in black.
Oh my God. Could be. We'll never know. Hold your horses. So apparently he was polite. He seemed calm. He paid cash for his ticket, which I think was not unusual at the time because it's 1971. And he paid $20 for that flight. It was for flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. As I mentioned, on his ticket, he gave his name as Dan Cooper. And nothing about any of this raised any kind of suspicion. Now, this was the era before metal detectors and before those really fucking annoying security checks. So before 9/11, before airlines saw all of us as...
Before having to take your shoes off.
Potential risks. Yeah, and your fucking belt and all the other bullshit.
Underwire bra, take that off.
What? I think they just wanted to see some titties, Geordie. Come in here, lady. Get that bra off.
You might want to take that off.
Might want to take those nipple tassels off. So he got on this Boeing 727. He took seat 18C, which apparently was towards the rear of the aircraft. So I guess you weren't ticketed with a seat number. I think you could just choose your seat. Now, Flight 305 was scheduled to take 37 minutes. On board, there were 36 passengers, 3 flight attendants and the flight crew. And it was just an ordinary day. It was a bit wet and grey outside, but nothing unusual. And the plane took off just after 2:50 p.m. Coops was like any other passenger. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He lit a cig up.
Oh, because those were the days.
Those were... It's the 70s.
Yuck.
Everyone was smoking on planes. It does honestly make me feel sick.
Makes me want to heave.
Like a nightclub, but worse, because
gosh.
it's like a fucking tin can. You can't even get outside for a breath of fresh air. He's there sucking on a ciggy. Just before 3 p.m., he handed a folded note to Florence Schaffner, who was one of the flight attendants. Now, Flo, she just thought, oh, God...
She thought he was trying to hit on her.
Yeah, she thought he was another businessman just trying his luck. Because she was apparently getting phone numbers all the time.
When we touch down, you'll be touched up.
Oh, my God. Well, she probably also had given several invitations to the Mile High Club, But she was always being handed notes, apparently.
Right.
Those were the days. So she was like, thanks, and just popped it in her pocket without
Didn't read
reading
it.
No. A few minutes later, he called her over and he said... very firmly, Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb.
Oh, shit.
So she was like, fuck. And she quickly opened that note. And there, written in capital letters, it said he wanted $200,000 in cash. He wanted 4 parachutes. And he wanted a fuel truck standing by in Seattle.
Well, how on earth is poor Flo going to manage all that?
Basically, if his demands were not met, he was going to detonate that bomb.
Oh,
and to show Flo how serious he was, he opened up that attache case, because he's no businessman. In it were all of these wires and cylinders and a battery, and it looked like a bomb. So Flo calls a cucumber. She goes straight to the cockpit, and she tells them what is going on. And the pilots are like, fuck, okay, we've got to take this seriously. So they relay all the demands to air traffic control, who immediately give all of that info to the FBI. The whole time, none of the passengers had any clue, right?
Right.
Because there was no kind of theatrics. He wasn't there going, this is a hijack.
Well, I'm glad, because that would be awful. It's hard enough being up in the skies.
Exactly. He was just sitting in that seat.
Held in the air by magic.
Yep, sucking on those cigs, drinking that bourbon, and apparently he was just very polite and respectful throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
The flight began circling over Puget Sound. Puget Sound. God knows where that is. Puget. How would you say it?
I like to check that out before I would say it on the podcast. Let's see.
You do your homework.
Puget Sound.
Puget Sound.
So flight went over Puget Sound, and the whole time, the FBI agents and the airline officials, they were scrambling to get that fucking money and those 4 parachutes that he asked for, right?
Before Kabooey.
Took nearly 2 hours to gather everything up. And this was a 37-minute flight, right? They were just circling around in the air the whole time. His instructions were so precise. He wanted the parachutes to include 2 front-mounted chutes and 2 main back chutes. I don't really know the difference between them, but apparently it was quite clever because the FBI thought this was tactical, because if they tampered with the parachutes to sabotage his jump. By asking for 4, they now did not know whether he planned to take a hostage.
Right.
So they had to give him good parachutes. They couldn't give him the dummy ones.
So he'd obviously thought that through.
Clever, clever. Then, at 5:39 p.m., the plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, and the passengers were released in exchange for the cash and the parachutes. And I say released, but honestly, none of them had a clue they'd just been fucking hijacked.
Best way to be.
I know. They were just told the aircraft was delayed due to a mechanical issue.
And told to get out.
And then told to get out. I mean, they must have been fucking dying from all the cigarette smoke, but
yeah.
They weren't scared. It was beautiful. You know, it was really only the cockpit crew and one flight attendant. Her name was Tina Mucklow. They're the only ones who knew. Well, sorry, that's not true. Flo was on that flight, so she knew. Tina Mucklow was the one that was on the new flight, right? So,
right.
Basically, they refueled, went back up, and there was only cockpit crew and Tina Mucklow on the new flight.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay. No passengers.
No, they were all gone. He told the crew to plot a new course. He wanted to go to Mexico City. Me too, mate. Me too.
Yes.
Let's go. His instructions were technical and very specific. He wanted the plane to fly at a maximum of 10,000 feet at the slowest, at the slowest possible airspeed without stalling. That's apparently approximately 170 knots for anyone who knows about plane stuff.
Oh, I wouldn't like that.
No. He also said the landing gear had to be deployed and it had to remain deployed. So flaps.
So never put the wheels up.
Yeah, exactly. And the cabin had to be depressurized. But he also wanted
He wants to land suddenly, quickly.
He wanted the rear staircase, which back in those days and on this Boeing was a feature of that particular type of Boeing 727. He wanted that staircase that was inbuilt lowered during the flight.
Really? Surely it would just get ripped off.
Well, who knows? But this apparently would become a really important part of this case because it made the FBI realize that he knew his shit. He was not guessing about any of this stuff and he knew really every move. I mean, he didn't know everything because the pilots had to explain to him that lowering the stairs mid-flight would be unsafe. So he was like, I don't care. I want you to do it. But then he did relent and allowed them to keep the stairs up during takeoff. But he insisted they had to lower them once they were airborne. And he was in control. He was super composed. He was really calm. And at 7:40, this new aircraft took off. Well, the old aircraft, but with the new crew, took off from Seattle, heading south towards Mexico. But somewhere over the pine forests of southwest Washington, Cooper made his move. It was approximately 8:13 p.m. and the crew felt the aircraft kind of shift because there was a sudden change in pressure and balance in the plane. And the rear stair indicator light flickered on in the cockpit. He had lowered those stairs and the pilots never saw or heard from Cooper again.
He basically jumped out the back door.
Yep, exactly. He lowered those stairs, vanished into what was then a fucking storm.
Wow.
It was freezing. It was raining. It was dark.
Oh, God.
And the temperatures were literally only just the slightest bit above freezing.
He would have frozen to death.
That's the thing. Below was forest, remote, rugged, dense, lots of rivers. He was wearing a business suit, Geordie, and a trench coat. He had loafers on. And he had 9 kilos of cash in a bag.
Wow.
He jumped with one of the extra parachutes with him. So when the plane eventually landed in Reno, Nevada, which was where it was going to stop to refuel, FBI agents just swarmed the plane, but he was gone. and so was the money. But what was left behind was the black tie clip, a clip-on tie, classy, and all those ciggy butts in the armrest. I know. And 2 of the parachutes.
So DNA. Oh, they don't have DNA back then.
Yes, I'm getting to that. It's all of these things are all like crazy
Tossing
to
up.
these stories. Yeah. Of course, an investigation was launched immediately, but it was clear that what he'd done was kind of genius. You know, he'd hijacked a plane, he got ransom money, and he'd escaped, not by like a getaway car, but literally jumping out of a plane into the night sky. So, like you said before, he probably died. You know, it was freezing, but did he survive? Where did he go? And was he an experienced paratrooper? Or did he like jump out and just, you know, get speared on a bloody
Pine needle.
Just one singular pine needle. In the weeks afterwards, the FBI mounted one of the most extensive manhunts in history, and they were quick about it. And the first thing they did was to comb the potential drop zones where they thought he might have quit the plane, you know, jumped out. They kind of made some calculations based on when the aircraft's pressure changed, which was around 8:13 apparently. And then they factored in the plane's speed, the direction, the wind conditions, and they narrowed it down to this sort of small area. There were places called Ariel, Woodland, Yakult, and a place called Battleground.
Isn't that kind of yogurt drink?
Yeah, that was Yakult. This is, I think it was quite disgusting, that probiotic yogurt drink. I think they are still in business. Who buys that shit?
Yakult.
If you buy it, do write in and tell us why you like it.
Yes, who's drinking Yakult apart from my mother?
Oh, God. But yes, this place, Battleground, again, it is surrounded by thick Douglas fir trees, forests of them. There's rivers, there's farmland. And if he did survive the jump, these small towns could have been where he sort of ran to. There are apparently locals in that area who swear by the theory that he landed and just vanished into the pines.
Right.
Who knows? But the FBI did launch a really full-on search. They had helicopters and military planes. There were foot patrols. They even went door-to-door knocking. But nada. No trace of Cooper. No body.
Not even a body or a bit of a body.
No body, no parachute, no bag of money. And for weeks they were scouring those forests, but empty-handed. They also thought maybe it was his real name. So they started tracking down every single person named Dan Cooper in the US. But no, nothing.
No.
But like I said before, what they did have was that black clip-on tie.
Yuck.
Mother-of-pearl pin. Those cigarette butts, but they were destroyed, Geordie.
Oh, what?
Because they didn't have DNA.
They just thought, what's the point?
And so they were like, what do we...
Chuck 'em.
Disgusting. These stink. Ugh. So they were gone, which is a real shame. But they did have 2 parachutes, one of which actually turned out apparently to be a training parachute and non-functional. A bit dodgy. I think he was smart enough to know they'd sent him a dud one. Bit tricky if he was planning to take 3 other hostages. Yeah. And the ransom cash was made up of unmarked $20 bills. But all the serial numbers had been recorded before they gave it to Cooper. The FBI had given lists of these serial numbers to banks all over America, casinos, businesses, hoping someone would spot one of these serial numbers. But no bills. Not a single note ever turned up in circulation. Not one. Until years later when something weird happened. But pin that.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Avoiding your unfinished home projects because you're not sure where to start? Thumbtack knows homes so you don't have to. Don't know the difference between matte paint finish and satin? Or what that clunking sound from your dryer is? With Thumbtack, you don't have to be a home pro. You just have to hire one. You can hire top-rated pros, see price estimates, and read reviews all on the app. Download today.
Because this case, like you said, you've heard podcasts on it, so have I. This whole case has taken on a life of its own because Cooper, or whoever he really was, he's become a bit of a ledge. He's the suave mystery man in the suit.
Jumping out of planes with money.
Yeah, who beat the system.
Or did he?
You know, he wasn't violent. Well, yeah, unless he's like a bag of bones under that bag of money. You know, he didn't hurt anyone. It's almost like he's a ghost and people love it. And, you know, apparently there are songs about him and conspiracy theories.
Of course.
And suspects about who this guy could be began to pile up. Apparently the FBI received over 1,000 leads in the first 5 years about who he could be. And most of them were dead ends. But a few names did stand out. So let's start with Richard McCoy. He was a former Army paratrooper who pulled off a very similar hijacking months after Cooper's.
Oh.
He got on a plane, he hijacked it using a hand grenade and a pistol.
Oh, God.
He asked for $500,000 and then he parachuted out of the plane over Utah.
Wow.
But he got caught.
Oh.
Yes. And when investigators compared his case to Cooper's, obviously, there are a lot of similarities, but he was younger than the witnesses described Cooper. And this guy was like, it wasn't me, I'm not him.
Yeah.
So the FBI did eventually rule him out. But obviously, some people feel like, yeah, it was him and he just lied about it. Then there's a guy called Dwayne Weber, whose widow came forward in 1995, claiming that on his deathbed, he confessed, I am Dan Cooper. This guy, he had a criminal record and he did actually match the physical description of Dan Cooper. But he also had a really weird obsession with this case. You know, he did loads of research on this guy. Apparently, DNA could be lifted off the tie that was left behind on the plane.
Oh.
And they did a test against that DNA and Weber's DNA.
Yeah.
But it didn't match. So he's sort of been ruled out.
Yeah.
Then there's a guy called Kenneth Christensen, who was a former paratrooper and a flight attendant for Northwest Orient. That was the airline that Cooper hijacked. And he had parachuting experience and he did resemble the composite sketches of Cooper.
Oh, okay.
Apparently he too, near his deathbed, but not on his deathbed, made some cryptic confession that he was Dan Cooper.
Right.
But no hard evidence, no matching fingerprints, no DNA, so he was sort of ruled out.
Okay.
Going back to that thing that I said, pin, in 1980, nearly a decade after the hijacking, a young kid named Brian Ingram discovered something while he was digging in the sand on the banks of the Columbia River near Vancouver in Washington. He found a wad of old, decayed $20 notes.
No.
And the serial numbers were a match to the ones the FBI had given to Cooper. Yes.
Oh, no.
So finally, after all these years, there was a tiny little scrap of evidence.
Yes.
But it just raised more questions, Geordie. No answers because there was only $5,800. It was not near any of those drop zones. So how the fuck did the money get there?
Yeah.
Did he lose it? Did he bury it? Did someone else bury it?
Yeah.
The FBI excavated the area hoping for more, but they found nothing.
Uh-huh.
It did feel like somebody had planted that money just to fuck with the FBI. One theory is that Cooper landed safely but lost the money during either the jump or when he was on the run. Maybe the money bag tore open. Maybe
what a waste of time.
I know. But it wasn't all of it. He still had $195,000. but none of that other money.
But never spent it in that country.
No. And of course, like you said, another possibility is that he died in one of those forests, but that still doesn't account for the money. And also, if he died in the forest, where is the body? I mean, I guess it could have been chomped, but someone's got to find those bones some point.
Yeah, maybe.
If that was a possibility. Remember I spoke to you about that guy who got ruled out of the investigation, who hijacked the plane?
Yeah.
Well, last year, The Guardian reported that a brother and sister had come forward to claim that they found the parachute that was used in that hijacking in their mum's shed, and that D.B. Cooper was their dad.
Oh, no.
Shante and Rick McCoy III say their father, Richard McCoy, who we talked about, was Dan Cooper.
Right.
And when you think about it, it's not crazy to think that it could be him, because
I agree.
He was former military helicopter pilot. He served in the Vietnam War. He hijacked that plane in April 72, so not long after. And he did the same leap. He got all that money. Mm-hmm. He was arrested 2 days later because they caught him and was sentenced to 45 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
But he escaped
in
1974.
Bloody hell.
And he was on the run for 3 months.
That guy's slippery.
He did get caught after 3 months and then killed by an FBI agent. And it was only when...
I wonder why.
Why was he killed? He was an escapee. He escaped prison.
Yeah, but you don't just kill them for it. It's not a death sentence.
That's true. They could have politely cuffed him.
Yes.
But it was only when Karen McCoy, his wife, died and the kids went through all the house and everything that they found that parachute in the shed. So in November last year, a guy called Dan Grieder, who is a retired pilot, who has spent 20 years investigating this case, he apparently told some newspaper called Cowboy State Daily, I want to read that. He said the FBI was reinvestigating the Cooper case after the discovery of this parachute. And he said that rig is literally 1 in a billion.
Oh.
If it's the same one, we'll know. He also says he thinks the FBI, or he has information that the FBI agents searched the mum's shed and house for anything else that might indicate that he was D.B. Cooper. And as far as I can tell, the FBI has not come forward to say a yay or nay about any of it. And honestly, why aren't they just saying to the kids, give us a DNA sample, let's see if there's a familial match?
Exactly. They're not doing that.
No.
Michelle, they need you on the case.
They bloody do. So watch this space. I think this story is going to run.
Fantastic. People's advocate Michelle Margarita on the case of the D.B. Cooper. Legend of.
Smoking those cigs. Just imagine it.
Amazing. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Yannicka, for sending in.
Yes. And I will put all the links to that story on the Patreon. So
wonderful. If
you haven't signed up, why the bloody hell not?
Why not? Because you're missing out. So please jump on there, have a little look. You never know what you might find. I think sometimes you can dip in and dip out. I don't know what it is on there, whether you can just buy one coffee and get access to it and quickly write down all the television recommendations and then not buy us a coffee next month, if you are so inclined. I mean, it's a bit mean, but if you want to, I'm sure you could.
You can cancel your subscription.
But don't. No, we've got you. We'd love to keep you.
And do vote for us. And on that note, Geordie, I do think there's only 3 things left to say.
Wherever you are.
Whatever you do.
Just keep
eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Dropping. Eavesdropping. Dropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Dropping. Dropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping all day long. Eavesdropping, this is the song.
Hey, it's Mark Maron from WTF here to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And I'm sure the reason you're listening to this podcast right now is because you chose it. Well, choose Progressive's Name Your Price tool, and you could find insurance options that fit your budget so you can pick the best one for your situation. Who doesn't like choice? Try it at Progressive.com. And now, some legal info. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Mission success doesn't come from PowerPoint slides. It comes from rock-solid technology systems that you can depend on when everything's on the line. From enabling warfighters at the edge to deploying AI to secure national intelligence, we're there, delivering the tech that runs faster and hits harder. GDIT, for everywhere the mission goes, and failure's not an option. Learn how we deliver technology for America's critical advantage at GDIT.com.